a lot of businesses perhaps need to rethink what they've been doing and rethink their business model, rethink their supply chain models to be able to accommodate these trends that you've been referring to. So when we think about that, I guess it calls for innovation. Calls for organizations to maybe look at things differently. What's your reaction to that? Does that play out with what you're seeing in your work?
First of all, let me just make a statement that as a marketing professor, to say that supply chain is the key for business success, it's a little bit problematic, but I stand behind my statement because it is. But I mean, when it comes to innovations, traditionally the way businesses have looked at innovation is that, okay, we have this great R&D department, they are in charge of new products, they're in charge of, the greatest, latest, and we have those amazing people working on it. This is where innovation starts, this is where innovation ends. Today is not the case, because if your supply chain is the key for your success, then innovation should be geared into the operation of your supply chain. And how do you really leverage that in order to, meet consumers' demand and the changing demands that we see? Now, some of the innovations are more logistic in nature. So how we make the last mile faster, how we make our online interface more appealing and easier to navigate. Many companies were caught unprepared. Surprisingly, when it comes to online interface, how we cut cost when it comes to our supply chain in order to really deliver that value, to roll that value into the consumer, and what we're offering and for how much we're offering it. So really to look at supply chain from a strategic view of not just how we deliver this product from A to B, but rather how we use our supply chains to enhance the value of a brand, to deliver better experience to our consumers authentically, and to really leverage our supply chain as a strategic advantage. This is where, the focus of many businesses shift gears to today, and certainly the pandemic put that on steroids. I mean, it really has accelerated those trends that we've seen, and not just in the US. We see that in other places. China does it, brilliantly. I mean, just to look at how China operates their supply chain, and they're huge, and their customer base is unparalleled to, anything that any one of us will ever, as a American company, will ever have to serve. And they still do it, and they do it brilliantly. Yeah. We have to go to that direction. We have to strengthen our strategic capability in that direction, because otherwise, globally, we will have a hard time to compete.
Yeah, I think I really appreciate your comments, because the reality is we've been talking for years about the critical role that integration plays in our businesses, right? How do we integrate marketing and pricing and brand and supply chain and innovation, both around products and services and solutions? And what the pandemic has essentially done is accelerated the need to drive all of these things together through a strategic perspective, as you're suggesting. And so I think that's really insightful information, and something that businesses probably are experiencing, but may not be thinking about at quite that level. So again, I really appreciate those comments.
If I may,
I'm sorry, please go ahead.
If I may just add one more thing to that. Yeah. Supply chain really have this unique space in every company operation where they're connected to the back end, to the supplier, raw material, a provider, and so on, but they also are the ones that are connected to the consumers. If you look at other entities in every company and every business, they probably are facing one aspect of that. Either they serve the consumers, or they serve the employees, or maybe the serve the supplier. Supply chain is really that core where both ends are being connected. And if you transform that to be consumer centric, you really have a winning formula. And I think this is where businesses are moving towards today.
Absolutely. Supply chain professionals have to be the strategic integrators from front end to back end. Very,
Yes.
very, very true.